While the Seattle Seahawks won the big game last night, some viewers declared Bad Bunny as Sunday night's winner. In fact, a lot of viewers did. The Puerto Rican superstar brought the island culture onto the field in an electrifying show rich with symbolism, dancing, even a real wedding, apparently. His unifying message expanded God Bless America to include all countries in the region from Chile to Canada.
God bless America, sea Chile, Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay, Bolivia, Perú, Ecuador, Brasil, Colombia, Venezuela, Guyana, Panamá, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, México, Cuba, República Dominicana, Jamaica, Haití, las Antillas, United States, Canadá, a my motherland, mi patria, Puerto Rico.
I'm here with Lulu, who was just shaken to it, right? Of course, CNN contributor, New York Times journalist, and podcast host, also co-creator and co-host of NPR's show, Alt Latino, Felix Contreras.
We're going to dance. We're going to do a little
I know.
dance.
There was like some dancing happening watching that, and I think you were probably doing the same when you were watching The Real Deal.
Oh, yes.
What was going through your mind as you were watching it last night?
You know, I think you have to view it on a couple different levels. The first of all was that it was a high watermark, a historic expression of Latino culture. When you consider the size of the audience, when you consider the context, the messages, which was basically the history of Latin America told through the history of Puerto Rico. And the lesson from that history about how, despite all the tragedy, there's still a celebration of life and joy through music. And the other thing to look at is the entertainment, the showbiz value of it, right? I'm a music geek. I'm a music geek of a certain age, okay? And Prince, Springsteen, James Brown, Celia Cruz, I've seen them all. And they all have this certain this intangible, this ability to connect to their fans and their audiences at almost an existential level. And Bad Bunny has that in droves, man. And yeah, we saw that last night.
I mean, what was so incredible about it is that it was an invitation, right? It was an invitation into Latino culture. It was an invitation into our homes. It was into our bodegas, into our weddings, into our living rooms, right? You got to see this beautiful expression of what it means, not only to be Puerto Rican, but to be Hispanic and Latino in our culture. And it's funny, from the ladies in the green room here who are Hispanic, who were talking to me about how they were crying, to my family, WhatsApp group, to my friends, we all found this to be a beautiful, empowering expression, an invitation to people to not look at us as other, but to look at us as part of the United States, as part of the Americas, as part of this beautiful culture that makes us all unique.
There was this really sweet moment when he walks up to a family watching TV, and hopefully we can show that moment here on the screen, and he hands his Grammy that he just got last week to this little boy right here. The internet thought the boy was Liam Ramos, who was taken into ICE custody with his father. But CNN has learned the moment was meant to symbolize his younger self getting the statuette. A powerful scene either way.
Yeah, and it speaks to both the past and the present and the future. That little boy was the future of Latin America, future of Puerto Rico. It's like, okay, this is what's possible. Like he was coming from the same background, coming from a working class neighborhood, and achieving the kind of things that he's achieved strictly on skill and everything that goes along with it. That it was symbolized right there in that moment. It was very touching.
And there were some other stars that were included in this. I wonder what you thought about that. There was Lady Gaga and Ricky Martin, who made appearances. What were your thoughts on that?
I mean, when Ricky Martin showed up, I've got to tell you, it's like boo-hoo-hoo. Because, again, he is just someone who is very much beloved. But the song that he was singing is actually a very political song in a way. It's about the history of Hawaii, and it is about not making Puerto Rico into Hawaii, this idea of losing your culture, losing your identity, losing your language, having it being taken away. And so to have him sing that song was a really powerful moment. Lady Gaga, again, this wasn't handed over to Lady Gaga. It was an invitation for Lady Gaga to partake of Bad Bunny's culture. What was she doing there? She was singing a Hispanicized version of her own song. She was dancing, salsa. It was beautiful.
And we have this wedding right here, apparently. This was an actual wedding on the field tying to the underlying theme of love being stronger than hate. Wow, can you imagine what it was like for that couple, like getting married on the Super Bowl halftime show stage?
No words, right? I mean, like that's a story for the ages, definitely.
Yeah, and like Lady Gaga's right there singing. I mean,
Yeah,
seriously?
it was like they actually got married, but I saw the funniest comment on that I saw is like, props to that lady who I'm sure had second thoughts when Bad Bunny was there and goes, is it too late? Maybe I can get Bad Bunny instead of my husband.
Her husband was really happy, so I'm glad she stuck with him. I also, of course, want to get your reaction to President Trump and what he said. He was not shy with his critique, calling it one of the worst halftime performances ever. He said, quote, "Nobody understands a word this guy is saying." But of course, census data paints a different picture. Around 42 million people in the U.S. speak Spanish at home, about 20% of the population. And by 2060, the U.S. could be the second largest community for Spanish speakers worldwide. What is your response to comments like that? And also the counter programming with Kid Rock, where around 6 million people, according to the New York Times, streamed during the same time.
Well, I think that it was significant that it was strictly in Spanish, except for those few moments when it wasn't, especially when you consider the context where even the Supreme Court has ruled that it's okay to pull people aside because they do speak Spanish, and with the whole immigration roundup and stuff. So it was a very, very strong statement that, yeah, we're going to do it all in Spanish. And I think that it was his way of answering the moment that we're in right now.
And, you know, and I personally think it was a very sad response to a show by an American citizen and a group of people who are part of this country. And I also think it just showed that he wants to expand what America First actually means, to include every country in the Americas, to include, you know, Mexico, Canada, to Chile. That was his invitation at the end. It wasn't us alone, it was us together. And I think that, again, while not an explicit political statement, is certainly understood by everyone who was watching that at that particular moment.
Statement of unity. All right, Lulu Garcia.
We all learned a lot about Bad Bunny, but we also, more importantly, I think we all learned a lot more about Puerto Rico, a beautiful place indeed.